close attention because I'll be going to jail more than likely come next Monday or by next Monday. This is important. Don't allow anybody to mince words or say something I did not say. Everything that I have to say about the situation is going to be said right here. As many of you know, about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, DCS took my kids from their mother after I proved she was lying. Then the judge told me that she needed me to get a mental evaluation because she didn't know what all I had or had not done. She just knew that her mother, that my kid's mother, was lying. I agreed. I had also specified that I was worried that DCS would retaliate against me because not only am I a public activist in my local area, who no government agency likes, mind you, but that I also refused to do any dealings with DCS during the DCS case. I made a deal with the judge, and I would deliver. The judge said, don't worry about it, don't worry about what DCS says, all that matters is what I have to say. That pissed DCS off. At the time, it was a woman named Janella Davis. This woman told me that I needed to wait to hear from her about what the evaluation rendered as to what classes I would have to take. I'd have to hear from my DCS worker. 6 months passed. I heard nothing from her. Hundreds of phone calls, hundreds of emails, hundreds of text messages, galore. And then about 6 to 8 months passes, hearing nothing from DCS, have not seen my kids anything. By now, I'm pissed, infuriated, as any dad that gives a fuck would be. So I go down there to the courthouse and start protesting because nobody would answer me. Next thing you know, after threatening damn near a civil war, I got an answer. They approved an emergency court date the next morning, and that's when I met not only the judge of the case, but the new DCS worker. I'm pretty sure that's how I met him. I might have met him before, a little bit prior to. Now, Janella Davis quit without telling me. So I was texting a DCS worker that quit for 6 months. It's policy that they have to tell you who is your new DCS worker, so that way you know who to contact in relation to your children and your case. She did not do that. However, when I asked her for her supervisor's number, since she was not answering me, that was the only text message she responded to. And she gave me a number to a supervisor that had already quit. So then I meet a guy named Vincent Greggs, I believe his name was, another DCS worker, the guy that when I got reintroduced to the case after that long-ass 6 to 8 months period of being ignored. He offers half and half, basically. Half the kids with me, half the kids with the mother. He says, what do you think about that? I say, I think a lot about that. I like that a lot. Same day, he put in his 7 days notice after our meeting, and he went back to the building. Coincidence? I think not. Then comes Dana Norman. Now this woman puts them into a foster home, right? I get a phone call about 10 o'clock in the morning telling me that my son has been hurt, he has been rushed to the hospital, and that the DCS worker doesn't know how bad, and she'll call me as soon as she gets there. She says she's about 26 to 36 minutes away. I can't remember which, but it was one or the other. Keep in mind, she called me about 10 a.m. and did not call me again until almost midnight. Now, in between 10 a.m. and midnight, I snapped. I went down to the Juvenile Justice Center and went to the judge, went to everybody. I was going around. Whoever wanted it was going to get it behind mine. Then I find out that these idiots, these foster care people, that allegedly, keep in mind allegedly, there's no proof that I've seen. They haven't offered me shit, nothing in proof, that shows that his injuries was a direct result of this. Instead, they showed me him falling off a scooter, and regardless of how hard he hit, it does not prove that that is where the injury came from. But all the same, I digress. Next part. So they sent him to this foster home, and then this foster home allegedly takes him to a fucking skate park or a park, and it lets him go down concrete slopes and hills with a scooter, no protection gear. He's 5 years old. So let's assume that what they're saying is true, and he fell off the scooter and broke his skull, because that's what happened. He almost died. But they take my 5-year-old son down to a skate park or a park and send him down a concrete hill with no protection gear after I stood up to the system. Almost costed him his life. And what did DCS do when the foster home did that? They stood up in front of the courtroom and claimed that they didn't see any reason to investigate that, and that they didn't see any violations to his safety or health. When to not put him in safety gear and send him down a concrete hill at 5 years old with confirmed ADHD. and he breaks his skull. And then when the foster home is asked why he did not have protection gear, they said that they had previously inquired about getting protection gear and the funding for it from DCS, but DCS told them no. Which means, motherfucker, you knew you had no reason to almost kill my son. Which means, motherfucker, that you knew he wasn't supposed to have his ass on that scooter with no protection gear. And just because that they wouldn't afford it does not mean that you still take him anyway. And then your reason that you gave the police and DCS was that you just wanted to take him down there because he wanted to go. Yeah? So at what point do you play the fucking parent? At what point do you play the guardian of a child, motherfucker? And it's crazy that this shit happened right after I stood up to y'all. Stood up to DCS in the system. Coincidence? Again, I think not. Then they sent him back to the same foster home after I objected to them sending him back to the same foster home. And I told them that if he gets hurt again in 2 to 3 weeks, it's on all of y'all. And everybody in the goddamn courtroom agreed. 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from a DCS worker telling me that they've had to take the police over there to get my son out this time, and that he was found with a black eye, a swollen leg, and then the other side of his face was swollen as well. They instead only reported to me that he only had a black eye and that it came from a beanie wiped across his face because he was crying. Keep in mind, I think it's important to note that the DCS worker removed him from the house because she herself believed it was abuse from the foster parents, right after he had broke his skull. Didn't even get a chance to heal. Keep in mind, it took him about a week to a week and a half to get him out of the house. And that they had to take the police to go get him because the foster parents, after they hurt my boy, was denying him access to DCS, was denying him access to service providers, and was denying him access to medical fucking attention. Fast forward a little bit. I'm gonna give a full breakdown in parts after this video for everybody to get all the details. There's a lot going on, and I'm trying to remember what I have said and have not on here. It's an emotional thing. It's hard to explain. I've had to explain it so many times talking to different people, and it don't get no easier. Because these bitches hurt my boy. So now they've done everything they could to claim that my children were in fear of me in an attempt to convince the judge not to grant me visitation. The judge overrules them eventually, grants me visitation. I have recordings of that very first interaction. They ran to me screaming, "Daddy." Which means they've lied to the judge in order to keep me away from my kids to know the truth. And now that they were overruled by the judge, excuse my frustration. I'm sure any parent that's watching this can understand. But now, they've approved, the judge has overruled them in the visitation, and they've granted me the visits. But they keep failing to facilitate the visits, claiming that nobody wants to work with me. When every service provider I've come across, I've given nothing but respect, even given the situation that I'm dealing with DCS. I've given nothing but respect, my full respect. And they can vouch for me, actually, and they're willing to testify on my behalf. Now, the judge got done playing with him and wasn't playing with him no more, and made him do it anyway. And so now they're still in violation because they're not giving me the grand total of hours. It's just every time it's come time for them to be overruled and do right and be held accountable, they say they will in court, and as soon as we get outside of court, they don't do a goddamn thing or lift a finger and stay in violation until the next court date. So I've waited for over a year now for them to do right by my family that they dragged into this case involuntarily. They now have a fucking week. A week. That means 7 days from now, my black ass is gonna be down in front of their building regardless of the fucking protection order they got on me. Which is why I started this video off with telling y'all that this could very well result in me being arrested. And so I'm putting this video out right now because I need all of you to share it. I need all of you to get it everywhere. I need you to save this video so they cannot get it taken down. DCS is not some punk, and if you are educated in how DCS, the Department of Child Services, operates and how powerful they are in this country, you understand this ain't no game. And for them to be running scared from me like they are, I think that is important to note as well, and we might be onto something that could completely topple them. I'll give the details in another video. I'm running out of time here. But share before Monday, save before Monday. Remember everything I told you that happened with this case. Do not let them mistake you.